George, you coached arguably, although not to you, the best freshman team ever back when they had freshman teams. 1971-72 Maryland freshmen. This is a two-part question. A, if the rules were as they are now, how many of those guys do you think would have gone directly into the NBA?
Well,
after the freshman year.
To lend a little bit of historic significance to it, at that time there was a publication called Basketball Times, and they ranked the freshman teams because freshmen weren't eligible then. And so the two premier freshman teams were UCLA and Maryland. UCLA obviously was led by Bill Walton, and the Maryland team had Elmore and McMillan, Cartwright, Porak, and Jack Trimble were the players. Trimble and Elmore from Power Memorial, of course McMillan's from Mansfield. Porak was from out in western Pennsylvania, and Cartwright was from Illinois. And that team, we averaged about 107 points a game.
Without no threes.
Yeah, there were no three-pointers in those days. I would say the two players who at that time from a skill set that probably could have declared for the NBA if they wanted to and would have made a roster would have been Lynn Elmore and Tom McMillan. What was interesting about both of them were they were honor students.
Right.
Subsequently Elmore went on to Harvard Law School. McMillan ended up being a U.S. congressman
Rhodes
Scholar. So I'm not sure that either of them would have been anxious to abandon their academic environment to go on to play in the pros, and at that time they weren't playing the money they're paying today.
Right.
But from a skill perspective, both of them would have clearly been skilled enough to play at that level, and subsequently did play in the league when the time came.
Okay, here's the second question. How do you think Maryland would have done? How do you think Lefty would have done if those guys were eligible to play? If the same rules are as they are now, freshmen are allowed to play on a varsity. I mean, taking into account who we had and adding those guys.
I think they would have been a top 25 ranked team, certainly talent-wise. That would have given them the size, the depth, the skill set necessary to play with the very best teams in the country. But at the same time, they would have. That even with that talent, they would have been severely challenged within the ACC conference, Atlantic Coast Conference at that time. But
also assuming that more than one team could get into the tournament.
Yeah. So let's put it this way: it would have been a team that had top 25 talent.